What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from BucsGameday.com. I'm here with our editor-in-chief at BucsGameday.com, River Wells, and we are done with day one of mandatory minicamp for the Buccaneers.
Day one, baby.
We saw Haason Reddick.
We did. He's there.
He's here. We can
in the flesh.
We can confirm that. We're going to talk a lot about Reddick and his arrival to Tampa Bay. We're also going to talk Tristan Wirfs. He was seen in a brace. We'll go further on that, and also the update that Todd Bowles gave us. We'll talk some Chris Godwin as we saw him a little bit there at the end of practice. We've got 11 on 11, 7 on 7 big time plays being made. We had Rachaad White talk after practice. We had Baker Mayfield. We haven't heard from him this offseason yet, but we spoke with him afterwards. So we've got a ton in these updates, River. And it's hot. I'm going to tell you it's hot.
It's hot. It's hot out there, guys. Wear your sunscreen.
Yes.
Actually, just stay inside.
Yeah, just don't go outside now, unless you have a pool or an ocean. But let's go and get started. Haason Reddick, got to see him rocking the number 5. We did know that he was already here because of him doing some media stuff yesterday, River. But what do you see from him, just straight up looking at him? Looked like he's in great shape.
Yeah, he looks really fluid. He's moving really well. Todd Bowles made sure to say that after practice. It's very limited of what you can do if you're an edge rusher when you're in shorts and shirts, kind of like that.
Yep.
But eventually, you can kind of see based on his drills and how he's doing off the ball, he's really quick, got really good hands, got really good bend, and it looks like he's really going to make some noise if he puts in that work and makes sure that he's devoted. And it sounds like everyone the team, except Tyke Smith, he says he's devoted. He's here to help us win. Baker Mayfield said he's here to help us win. So that's really good news for the Bucs, especially if he can kind of find that form from 2020 to 2023. 11 sacks or more in each of those years. That would be nice. A big difference for the Bucs this year.
Yeah, no, that would be nice. And I think a lot of it is overblown, and this comes from media, and sometimes it's us to blame as well, but it's what the fans want to know, and I understand that. But the way that he looks trimmed. He looks like he was putting in a ton of work this offseason. I saw a lot of communication with Yaya, those two dapping each other. That was throughout the whole entirety, I would say, of the first day of minicamp. First, you go into stretches, you do a few drills, but then they were working on some of the things of understanding Todd Bowles' defense and where they were going to be lined up specifically, and a lot of communication between Reddick and Yaya there.
Which we love to see.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll give you some more updates on how he looks. But like River just said, and Bowles is always going to tell us, and I completely agree, nothing matters too much, definitely at a pass rush position, anybody in the trenches, until these shells and these pads come on to these big boys. Moving over, I noticed right off the bat there with the binoculars, it started raining at the beginning of practice, so we had to go into the IPF over there. And I noticed with the binoculars, Tristan Worfs was not participating. He did not have a helmet on. Then I looked and saw that he did have a brace on his right knee and a sleeve.
Yep.
We heard from Bowles. What did Bowles say about Worfs?
Todd said he's going to be fine. It's precautionary training camp. And then when you watch Tristan, he wasn't participating in 11 on 11 or 7 on 7 teamwork. But he was to the left field. He was running, he was stretching, he was putting a lot of weight on it, doing squats. Seems like he's totally fine. So you're going to have a lot of those type of injuries, right, that are precautionary, being held out for rookie minicamp, for mandatory minicamp, just to make sure that everyone's all right going to training camp. There's no nicks or bruises, and as healthy as they can be. So this appears to be one of those things with Tristan Wirfs and a few other guys there as well. Guys like guys like David Walker, outside linebacker, the Bucs drafted this year at Central Arkansas.
Yep.
He's still off to the side. Still a few guys there that are not doing anything. So they'll probably be ready for training camp. Todd Bowles mentioned to us he thinks that most people are going to be ready for training camp. So we'll give you an update whenever that starts. But for right now, hard to look into a lot of injuries because a lot of it's just, being safe, being precautionary.
Yeah, and a lot of these vets out there. I don't know if you mentioned Lavonte David. He's out there. He had a sleeve on his leg, but I don't think it's anything.
No, he's out there coaching the guys. But for a guy like Lavonte David, I don't know if you need to really be out there running around and don't worry, minicamp,
we're gonna talk some Mike Evans here as well because he was here and he
was running around.
And he was running around. But going to back to Tristan Worfs. I mean, this is a guy that loves the weight room. He's lifting, and we just saw him last week too. He was hanging out at the event that they were holding last
during
week.
OTAs,
Yeah, and so he was hanging out, just came from the gym, you could definitely tell. So maybe he did have a little something ding him in the weight room, but as Bowles said, nothing too serious there for Tristan Wirfs, the best tackle in football. Yeah, hey, I'm putting it out there. Putting it out there, man. I mean, if you say left tackle, right tackle, I'd say you
All
give an
pro at both
argument.
positions.
I say you give that argument
Not
right
bad.
there. You let
Not
us know
bad.
in the comments. This is a heavy Bucs crowd, so I think you'll be agreeing with me. Let's keep moving, though, River. Godwin. Didn't see him at the beginning, but then I did see him there. He snuck out, but he was out there. I only saw him walking back into the
Yeah.
facility, so don't necessarily know if he was doing anything with the trainer or such, but I did see nothing, no brace, no sleeve on or anything, just was walking in street clothes and looked fine. Didn't see a limp or anything. I'm not going to go too far into the analysis of how he was walking, but that's a good sign he's out here and, moving fluidly.
Yeah, Todd Bowles mentioned that he has been rehabbing here at one Buccaneer place inside during OTAs and mandatory minicamp. So he said when the trainers say he's all good, then we're going to take him outside and see what he can do. So again, if Tristan Worfs is being cautious with his injury, of course they're going to be cautious with Chris Godwin's injury probably.
Yeah.
So I think training camp's going to be the big thing, to see if he's going to be out there at training camp, what he's doing when he arrives, because for mandatory minicamp, totally understandable that Chris Godwin wouldn't be participating. He's rehabbing, he's working on his injury, and that's fine, but training camp's going to be a pretty big predictor as to where he's at in his rehabilitation, and it'll be interesting to see whenever that time rolls around. He's going to have quite a few more weeks after this to get rehabbed and get ready.
Yeah.
And once training camp hits, we're going to see what happens. So.
One thing I'm going to transition us here. You don't have to rush Chris Godwin because you got a guy like a Mecha Aguk.
That's right,
who,
you do.
I mean, I wrote him down on my notes here, just seeing him up close because usually at the beginning of practices when we're outdoors, we're not as close to these guys. But when you get into the indoor practice facility, you get to be very close to them. And seeing Mecha Aguk, and we don't even have pads on him yet, but the way that he looks, man, the way since he's arrived and now into mandatory minicamp, this guy has put on a lot of work in the training room, weightlifting, and that's something that we knew going through the draft process about him as a player. He's a guy that is reliable, consistent, and is going to be someone that is going to be productive for you for wherever he were to go in the NFL. Luckily, he's here in Tampa for that. But when we're talking Chris Godwin, you don't have to rush him too much. And that was a really nasty injury that Chris Godwin went through.
It was.
So having a first-round guy like Agbuka has got to help you in the way that he's shown up. And Baker Mayfield talking very highly of him. He says he's already acting and performing like a pro. You feel a lot better in allowing Chris to have that much time for his rehab.
You do, and that was one of the biggest draws with the Mecha Aguk coming out of college, that he was already so polished coming out of Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
And so now he comes here in this offense that needs a Chris Godwin type sort of slot receiver who can find that space, get in it, and move the ball at the short and intermediate range. And Mecha Aguk can definitely be that. And it's good that he's getting these reps early, with the first team. Chris Godwin will obviously have precedence, I think, over Mecha Aguk in the slot, and then we'll see how he plays outside. Maybe once he becomes wide receiver 3 or 4, depending on what they want to do with Jalen McMillan. But for right now, he's getting those reps in that Chris Godwin type role, and he looks pretty good. He looks very polished. He looks ready. And that was one of the biggest benefits of drafting a guy like him out of college, that you knew he was going to be able to plug right in and play professional football. Really high floor type of prospect, and I think we're seeing the makings of that early.
It's early.
It's early. I think we're seeing the makings of that kind of in the way that he approaches the game, from what people are saying about him, than what we're seeing in the practice field.
Yeah. Then moving on here to another wide receiver, then we're going to get into some 11-on-11 plays and the biggest play made there at the end of practice. So keep staying here. Also, too, if you're enjoying the content, make sure to smack that like button. I think we got over like 200 likes on the last instant reaction and got a lot of views. So
keep
appreciate
it rolling.
Y'all. Yes,
appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it. The more of that, we're going to keep doing as many of these for you guys as well. So let's keep moving, though, ladies and gentlemen. One note I want to go. Trey Palmer not participating as we're talking about that wide receiver room, but he was not a participant today. Didn't see anything on him or anything. Just was wearing a cap and just hanging around with the group. But just wanted to note on that, and we'll see if that continues going into day 2 and 3 of mandatory minicamp. 11-on-11. Let's get started here.
Let's do it.
Yaya Diaby started off with a sack here on my notes, and then going over to still in the pass rush, Reddick did have a offsides, and then that allowed for Baker to connect with Mike Evans on a 3rd and 9 play. The only reason I knew that was 3rd and 9 is because Todd Bowles was watching on the offensive side of the field today. Going over to Trask. Kyle Trask has been throwing some bombs.
Some absolute darts. Go Gator, baby.
Yep, for all you Gator fans, go Knowles from me. But Kyle Trask threw a deep, beautiful shot over to Jalen McMillan, but it was a drop.
Yep.
It was a drop. I think Hayes was in coverage there, but that's something to continue to monitor. There was another play, which we'll talk about at the end of this video, with Tyke Smith making the play of the day that involved Jalen McMillan.
And speaking of drops, we got another drop pick from Jacob Parrish.
Yeah.
Today's offense seemed to be really focused on a lot of screens, you know, wheel routes, flat routes, sort of in that very short-term zone.
Yep.
So you had a lot of defensive backs that were making plays by jumping on the ball, and Jacob Parrish made a really good read on one of those. Couldn't come down with the pick, and Todd Bowles joked at practice that he's going to hear about that for sure. So Todd Bowles wants some ball hawks. It's good to get that stuff out of the way now. And if we talk about, you know, the good things not mattering as much because it's short and shorts, then the bad things don't matter quite as much either. But they want to get their hands on the football. They want to come down with those picks this year because they had a lack of turnovers in that department last year.
Mm-hmm.
So coming in training camp and going forward, Todd's going to want those guys to really hoe on the ball and make those picks. But I thought it was a defensive day today.
I thought so too.
For sure. It was a defensive day today.
It was very chirpy from the defensive side of the ball.
And Baker Mayfield told us after practice, he says, you can't talk trash unless you do your job. He told us. So
great quote.
Looks like the defense was doing that. Anthony Walker Jr. used to be teammates with Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, was letting him have it there.
Anthony Walker was chirping. And you also have, you know, it's funny, I said Trey Palmer wasn't participating. He was participating, though, in the chirping. He's been doing that since he's arrived here in Tampa.
Of course.
But Anthony Walker, very vocal guy. Todd Bowles seems to like it. Baker loves it there, of course, and coming from a guy that likes to chirp as well. But it was full of energy, highly, and it wasn't just the defensive side on the ball. It was very competitive. I will tell you, you know, I know we don't have on pads, but that pass rush was getting back there, and it was creating a lot of problems for Baker. I mean, he did not have much time, River.
And that's what Bucs fans like to hear because that pass rush was pretty middling last year. And with the addition of Haason Reddick, it'll probably open up Yaya Diaby on the other side, less chips. That could translate into more sacks.
Yes, we did have in Red Zone 11-on-11 here in the notes. You'll like this, Buccaneers fans. Reddick did record a sack. He just worked. It was actually on Gedeke. He was able to get to the backfield there, record a sack, and this was the same play where Tyke Smith in the end zone, the back of the end zone on Jalen McMillan, midair, was stripping the ball. It looked like Jalen McMillan was going to come down with it because his 2 feet were down there. It was not easy.
They were in.
2 feet were in, but Tyke Smith strips out the ball and deletes that and erases a touchdown. I thought that was a really good play. And Tyke Smith, I thought, looked good today. He was in the right spots at the right time.
Yes, he was. He's playing safety now, moving from nickel. It's looking like they're going to have Jacob Parrish, their draft pick out of Kansas State, come in and play nickel for them. Tyke told us he's playing both the practice, but based on the formations and the personnel that we saw, I think, out there, it looks like Jacob Parrish is probably going to be in the front runner for that nickel spot, get Tyke Smith on the field more often at safety. And he was at safety when he made that play against Jalen McMillan, so good stuff from him.
Yeah. Overall, though, I will say, you know, like we just said, Reddick did record that sack. Tyke Smith making that big play. The pass rush was getting back there, causing havoc against Baker Mayfield and that offensive line. I really wish
defense day.
It was a defensive day. Now I guess we go into mandatory camp day 2 and see how the offense responds. Like River was saying, though, a lot of short intermediate passes, dump off passes to the flats. There was one really nice throw from Kyle Trask, an absolute dart.
It was to Rachaad White, right? I believe so.
I think there was one for him, but the one that Devin Culp caught, which was crazy grab there. I mean, that was a beautiful grab. And I tell you what, I really like Devin Culp, and we saw him in training camp make those kind of plays over the middle with his hands. He's got great hands.
Yeah, for sure.
And we saw that in the season too.
In the time he was allowed to shine, for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Josh Kazard can find a way to incorporate him into the offense a little bit more.
Yep. So we'll see. We go into day 2, a mandatory mini camp. Tomorrow we'll have all kinds of scoop for you guys here on the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this, smack the like button down below, subscribe. It will notify you every time we release one of these videos to y'all. But that'll do it from me and River. Day 1, a mandatory mini camp for the Bucs in 2025. Thanks for watching.
Fire the cannons.